Hey there, Irrational Theist, episode 12, coming at you in a somewhat peaceful house. Got the oldest off to camp this morning, and I am scrambling to pull all the last minute things together for my next jaunt down to the jungle with the biggest crew that we have had since COVID. So that is very exciting and anticipatory anxiety attached to that. But I'm really excited to be down there and go expose 21 other folks to our world and give them an adventure of a lifetime and get God a bunch of glory in the midst of it, and hopefully change a bunch of lives and form a lasting relationship with the church out of Denver called Authentic Life. And maybe you'll be hearing more from that crew and I while we're down there. That's probably what the daily podcast is going to be next week when we're down there. But don't know that for sure because I need to finalize getting my hands on a Starlink that I think I have that we can just bring with us instead of the ones that we already have out in the jungle, because I don't know that we'll be in those villages that we have the Starlinks. But anyways, let me get to the point of today. Wanted to follow up on one of the things that Maddox said yesterday. He illuminated it, and I'm just so proud of my boys and the men that they're growing up to be, and their willingness to share and be open, besides just the camera jitters. But I have been very intentional, Chelsea and I have been very intentional about getting our home to be a place where we can have candid conversations, where it is desired and expected that we are able to share our emotions and our thoughts so that we can provide the most peaceful and loving and joyful environment as possible. And one of the things that Maddox said was that the thing he would change about me is that sometimes I get angry and yell. And that is probably my biggest weakness. I don't know that that's always been my MO going back to childhood, but especially over the last few years, it has kind of reared its head. It's been something I've been working through in counseling and continuing to, and I address it in my prayer time and my daily walk. And I'm just going to give it to you today so that maybe you guys can pray with me for it and give me your feedback and whatever other comments you may have. But one of the things that I've really landed on is that for me, the biggest thing is that when I keep my emotions in and I don't express myself, or if I don't journal and express some of my frustrations to God in prayer, that eventually some of these things boil over. And being the regimented, apostolic, strategic guy that I am, where I like the structure, I like developing plans, developing strategies, I can get testy if I'm having to ask for the fourth or fifth or sixth time and my temper flares up. And that impatience that presents itself is ultimately a lack of commune with the Spirit in my mind. I'm taking full responsibility for that. That at the end of the day, most of the things that I get angry about or frustrated about aren't worth getting frustrated about, and they're just projections of greater things that are stressing me. And that does not get to be an excuse. And so I'm continuing to work on that as a husband and as a father and as a friend and as a leader. And one of the, I guess, confessions, I guess, is this podcast in and of itself. That is one of my strategies to try to fix this or figure it out, because so oftentimes I look around at what's going on in this world, and it's really frustrating to me, because the more that I dive into scripture, the more that I feel like I'm in communion with Jesus and the path that he wants me to be walking and what the Spirit's telling me to do, the more alienated and lonely I feel with other Christians and with some of the Christian communities that I find myself surrounded by. Because for me, as I understand it, the calling of all Christians is ultimately to learn how to love one another and bring Christ to those that don't know him, and to influence them in such a way as to have such an attractive life that we stand out in a way that is appealing and interesting and sparks the curiosity, and isn't something that is repulsive and is hateful. And I look around at so much of what I see, and it just builds up inside of me. There's this disgust that, and it hurts my heart. It hurts my spirit when I see hateful posts. I see people protesting. I see people forming echo chambers or hijacking messages to spin a message in such a way as to, I guess, protect the sanctity of a point or the sanctity of purity in their mind. And ultimately, I just carry so much of that inside of me. And then as I'm carrying that inside of me, I then let stupid things like my boys not cleaning up the basement, or having friends over and spilling things all over the place and destroying furniture or whatever, really bother me. And that's not really what's bothering me. It's the other things that I'm carrying in life. And so I've been using this podcast, and I'm going to continue to use this podcast as a way in which to kind of get my thoughts out, that I've been taking the time that I have at the end of every afternoon where I would normally go and journal my thoughts, and I'm just putting it into this little 15-minute deal and praying that it's impactful or insightful to people, and that it's relevant to an audience that hopefully will allow for a new conversation to start. And if nothing less, I get my thoughts out of my body so that I'm not just sitting there holding them inside, because the last thing I want it to do is these thoughts that are just festering there to sit there and then have an exponential effect on other things. And so if you may have been thinking in the past 11 episodes that, man, that guy's fired up or got an axe to grind or something, it's not really that, because I'm a peaceful, loving person, and I really want to love everybody, and I think I'm pretty affable, but I'm using this as sort of an experiment of sorts to get my thoughts out and hopefully one day be able to have this ongoing conversation. But I don't know. You guys can tell me how that's working. Would love to know your feedback and continue on this conversation. For my review today, I am going to do Breaking Bad. I'm not sure what the audience that we have, how many of you guys have watched it, but it's probably been one of my biggest guilty pleasures, if you want to call it that and Westworld, and there's a few other TV shows that are like that, where clearly the overall atmosphere is pretty yucky. It's not a very redeeming atmosphere for, I guess, a positive conversation, but it's really good TV and good producing and good storytelling. And so within it, you have this Walter White character, who is this disgruntled high school science teacher that ultimately finds out he has a terminal cancer diagnosis. And you see that this is ultimately, I guess if I kind of pull back and just talk about it in general, I have the review up on my website already, but it's not just a personal journey that I've seen several people take in my life, but it's more a reflection of a broader human experience that serves as a potential reminder of, I guess, the duality of the potential of humanity, where I guess what I just talked about, we can go two different directions. There's the capacity for great good inside of all of us, and there's unspeakable evil, where we can go do things in the shadows, we can do criminal things, we can ultimately become the worst of the worst if we let ourselves go unchecked, which is kind of what we see with Walter White as he gains authority and power doing what he's doing with making drugs and selling them and growing in the drug wars. But I don't think this is just about the corruption of one man, but it's more of a meditation on the human condition. A tale that I think could resonate with many of the biblical themes of sin and then redemption and the eternal struggle between good and evil. And I guess with this podcast, that's what I'm trying to do, is just make sure that I'm being transparent as possible so that those that may be watching can hold me accountable, so that I don't get found in the latter where I may be going down the evil route, but that I can watch my tone, I can learn and improve so that I can be the best dad that I can be for my boys, best husband for my wife, and the best friend and neighbor to everybody out there. So thank you for humoring a very inward focused, self-involved rational theist today, but I appreciate you guys, and we will talk to you tomorrow.